Busho kapira Jodo makada Seppo harana Nyu metsu kujira Nyorai oryoki Ga kon tokufu ten Gangu isaishu Tosan rin kunyaku. That is the meal chant that we do at temples whenever we eat a meal, and I'm going to give you the translation of the portion I just read. Buddha was born in Kapilavastu, enlightened in Magadha, taught in Varanasi, entered nirvana in Kushinagara. Now we set out Buddha's own bowls. May we, with all beings, realize the emptiness of the three wheels, giver, receiver, and gift. And there's several translations floating around out there. In most places I've been to in the English-speaking world, they chant that in English. In Japan, we chanted it in Japanese. I always like the Japanese chants better. And some people will complain that, like, oh, I don't know what I'm saying if I say it in Japanese. Well, when I say that it's in Japanese, it's actually in Chinese as a Japanese person would pronounce it. And so a Japanese person doing that chant, if he or she is looking at the kanji, the Chinese characters written out with it as they're chanting, they might have about as much idea what they're chanting as an English speaker would if they just read it before they started chanting. You know, usually it's when they give you something to chant in Japanese, normally they'll give you something, you know, the English translation beside it. So I have long been an advocate of us at the Angel City Zen Center doing those chants in Sino-Sanskrit or Chinese or Japanese or however you want to say it. I always get voted down, so there you go. But let me read you the next part as we chanted it in Nishijima Roshi's retreats. Hello, Ziggy. Ziggy is jumping up on me trying to get my attention. Hitotsu ni wa kono tasho o hakari kano raisho o hakaru. Futatsu ni wa onore ga tokugyo no zenketsu o hakate kuni ozu. Mitsu ni wa shino fusegi toga o hanaruru koto wa tonto o shutosu. Yotsu ni wa masa ni ryoyaku o koto to suru wa gyoko o ryozen ga tame nari. Itsutsu ni wa jodo no tame no yue ni ima kono jiki o uku. And that means we reflect on the effort that brought us this food and consider how it comes to us. We reflect on our virtue and practice and whether we are worthy of this offering. We regard it as essential to keep the mind free from excesses such as greed. We regard this food as good medicine to sustain our life. For the sake of enlightenment, we now receive this food. And the final part goes, Jobun sambo chubun shion gekyu rokudo kaido kuyo iku idani saiyaku niku ishu isaizen sanku ido shoshujo kaigu jo butsudo. And that means, first, this is for the 3 treasures, next for the 4 benefactors, finally for the beings in the 6 realms. May all be equally nourished. The first portion is to end all evil, the second is to cultivate all good, the third is to free all beings. May we all realize the Buddha way. And since I did the stuff about the precepts, you might recognize that that last bit is a reiteration of the universal precepts. To end all evil, to cultivate all good, and to free all beings and realize the Buddha way is in the one of the sections of the vows that we take before we take the precepts. So this chant is something we chanted every meal that we did at Nishijima Roshi's place. There's a tradition of not eating after noon in early Buddhism, And when Buddhism came to China, people started eating dinner, but they would pretend they weren't eating dinner. So they wouldn't do the meal chant for the dinner meal, and they would call it medicine bowl. Well, Nishijima Roshi, I never really discussed this with him, but apparently he wasn't all down with that tradition, and he just started doing the meal chants in the evening too because we were eating. So, you know, it seemed more honest, I guess, to him. That's an unusual part about our group, is that we do the evening meal, we do a chant for it. But this stuff is important because, well, for one thing, I think I talked about this when I did a video on vegetarian and veganism, because I've been a vegetarian for longer than I've been a Buddhist. But no matter what sort of meal regimen you're on, even if you're the strictest vegan in the world, something is dying in order for you to eat, because there's all sorts of things going on in the cultivation, and, you know, if you're eating potato chips, the potatoes died, you know, so on and so forth. So that's important. There's another thing that I came across in all this studying I've been doing lately of Advaita Vedanta philosophy. They have a tendency to call the material body, this body that we have, the food body, because after all, it's made out of food. So everything, you know, every bit of your body is just a permutation of the food you've eaten. And so in that sense, food is also important and significant to everything that you do and everything that you are, at least in the material form, and also in the spiritual form, because of the action that one undertakes when getting food and eating food. So this is really important stuff. Nishijima Roshi would do a meal chant for every meal that he ate. He would go around, I stayed with him a couple of times, and he would go, you know, around the corner and buy takeout sushi, which you can do in Japan, you know, at a convenience store or a grocery store. Bring it back and do a full meal chant before eating it. I'm not that strict with myself. Maybe I should be, but I think if you're really going to be serious about this, you do the meal chant even when you're grabbing a bag of potato chips, you know, to sit there and munch on while you're watching, you know, Dancing with the Stars or whatever it is you're watching. I think that is an important thing. And it's an important part of the ethical practices of Buddhism, is to give thanks for your meal. You know, this is something that a lot of religions do. You know, Christians say grace. I once went to a Seder, and they did a Hebrew prayer before the meal. So this is something that crosses cultures and crosses boundaries of various religions, and I think it's a real significant tradition that's an important tradition. And I just thought I would introduce it to you. I think I've mentioned it. I think I mentioned it in the vegetarianism video before, but it deserves a mention again, all of this stuff, because food is something that we partake of every day, and we wouldn't be able to stay alive without it. So giving thanks for it, and giving thanks for even our ability to have food, I think is really significant. And it's, as I say, part of the Buddhist ethics is not to kind of think of these things lightly, is to think of them as being important and significant and real. So that's my meal chant video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to donate to me being able to get more meals to chant over, you can send me a donation at the links you're seeing below on your screen. That is the main way I make a living. I don't make a lot from book royalties or anything else, and I'm putting up my hands to say that if you're having financial difficulties, don't send me a donation, because I'm not desperate. But the reason I'm not desperate for financial donations is because you folks keep giving them to me, and I really appreciate that, and I thank you very much. Have a good time all the time. See you later. Bye.